Retail stores charge so much for fall decorations, but with a few things from the Dollar Tree, you can recreate your own high-end looks at a fraction of the cost. I think it's outrageous what stores charge for napkin rings, and they're so easy to make yourself. When I make napkin rings, I like to use the shower curtain rings that you can get at the Dollar Tree. You get a pack of 12 for just $1.25. I also dug around in my fall and Halloween stashes, and I grabbed a few things that I can use as the embellishments for the top. You can wrap your shower curtain rings with anything you'd like. I had this really thin gold ribbon in my stash. It does have wired edges, and I knew that would make it a little difficult to wrap around my shower curtain ring. So all I did was just cut the wire off of each side of my ribbon. Once I had both of the wires cut off, then I just started with a little hot glue at the top closure of my shower curtain ring, and I started winding my ribbon around until I had the whole thing covered in the gold ribbon and I reached the other side. Now the great thing about this is you can customize it for however look you like. You don't have to use ribbon. You could use jute cord, you could use yarn, anything that you have in your stash that would fit your home's decor. I didn't really care for the napkin ring that I saw online, that it just had a big old chunky pine cone on the top of it, so I switched mine up just a bit. I had a pack of these silk fall leaves, so I glued one down on the top of my napkin ring, and then I had a bunch of little mini pine cones that I liked much better, and I glued a few of those on the top. But again, you can customize this to however you like. You don't have to use pine cones at all. You could just use leaves, or you could use flowers. For my second set of napkin rings, I kept the process the same, but this time I used some black fishnet style ribbon that I wrapped around my shower curtain ring. And then for the embellishment on this, I found these really cute glittery spiders at the Dollar Tree, and I just needed to hot glue one of those to the top. One piece of home decor I always enjoy looking at are throw pillows. I wanted to try making my own, so I started taking a crocheting class on Craftsy, and Craftsy is the sponsor of today's video. Craftsy is your online resource for all things creative. As a DIYer, I'm always excited to learn new skills. Craftsy offers more than 2,000 classes in a variety of topics such as sewing, quilting, baking, and what I'm interested in, crocheting. I really enjoyed the class Classic Crochet, the Granny Stitch, taught by Tamara Kelly. I already knew the basic stitches of crochet, so it was really fun learning how to put those stitches together to create a granny square. I was able to make 2 granny squares in the color of my choice and turn them into a throw pillow I can add to my living room for the fall. Craftsy classes are taught by talented and friendly experts. I appreciate that the classes are broken down into short, easy to follow lessons so I can learn at a pace that is comfortable for me. If you are looking for a new hobby or skill, Craftsy has over 20 categories of classes to fit any interest and skill level. If you want to join the creative community of Craftsy, the first 1,000 people to use my link in the description box will get a full year of premium membership for just $1.49. That's one full year of premium membership for just $1.49. I'm excited to continue learning and exploring everything Craftsy has to offer, and I know you'll find something that interests you as well. Thank you again to Craftsy for sponsoring this video. I really love adding simple garlands to my mantle or to my coffee bar, but I don't love the prices that retailers charge. I'm using up some of the pumpkin shapes that I have in my stash. This first set has a burlap background with a plaid front, and then I'm also going to use these plain wooden color your own ornaments that you can get at the Dollar Tree. I started by taking 3 of the pumpkins that had just the black and white plaid on the front. I think they're cute as is, but as an extra layer of embellishment, I'm just using some jute cord, tying a simple shoestring style bow and hot gluing it to the top of each of my pumpkins. To add a little color to my plain wood pumpkins, I'm using some Tim Holtz Distress ink in the color Rusty Hinge. I'm using an ink blending tool just to rub it around the edges. I wanted to leave the center plain so that it had a shadow effect and it kind of showed off the curve of the pumpkin more. Now every time I use these Tim Holtz inks in my videos, I always get a ton of questions about the little storage container that I have and also the ink blending tools that I use. So I'll make sure that I have all of those linked down below. You can get all of these things from Amazon. As a final decoration for my wooden pumpkins, I hot glued on some fall leaves that I had, and I also had these mini paper sunflowers that I thought made them look so cute. I cut a length of nautical rope that would fit across the top of my mantle. I took the two ends and I put them together so that I could find the center, and I'm working from the center out towards the end. So you can see here, I grabbed one of those black and white plaid pumpkins, and on the back side I just laid a bead of hot glue, and then working from either side of that pumpkin, I just evenly spaced out my two wooden pumpkins. And I did it the same way. I just laid a bead of hot glue across the back and then laid the rope into it. And then that way I could tell if the spacing was even between the pumpkins. And then for the last two pumpkins, I did the same thing. I put hot glue on the back and spaced them out on either side. I'm letting the Dollar Tree do most of the work for me for my Halloween garland. They had these really cute felt shapes. I grabbed a pack of the black cats, and I also grabbed a pack of the jack-o'-lanterns. Now I'm not going to do anything to the jack-o'-lanterns. I think they're really cute how they are. You do have to pop the little pieces out so that you can see the face. And then for the cat, the only thing that I wanted to give my little kitty was a little bow tie. So I'm using some black and white ribbon that I already had in my stash. I cut one length down and then I dovetailed it on either end. I'm using a piece of black cording and I just accordion pleated the center of my ribbon, and I'm tying it with that black cording. And because I dovetailed the ends, once I had that knot in place in the center, it looked like a little bow tie for my black cat. Then I just used some hot glue to glue it to my cat. And the same thing that I did for my fall garland, I took a piece of jute rope, the length that I would need on my mantle. I folded it in half so that I could find the center, and starting in the center, I just worked my way out until I had all of my pieces on my garland. I like using lanterns in my decorating, but most stores, you can only use that lantern for one holiday or one season. In the plus section of the Dollar Tree, they had two different sized lanterns. They had a larger one for $5 and a smaller one for $3. And these are black metal. Now, if you don't like the color of the lantern, you can always spray paint it, but black fits in with my decor pretty well. So I'm going to create some toppers for these lanterns that I'll be able to change out for the different holidays. I wanted to create a big fluffy bow for on the top of my fall lantern. I gathered up a few different ribbons in a couple different widths and a couple different colors and prints, all relating to fall. I'm starting out with a 12-inch piece of ribbon, and I just looped it over on itself until I had 3 loops on each side. Then for my next color of ribbon, I stepped it down to 10 inches, and I did the same thing. I just looped it over on itself until I had 3 loops on both sides. Then for my third piece of ribbon, I stepped it down again, and this time I cut it to an 8-inch length, looping it over on itself until I had 3 loops on each side. After I had all of my ribbons prepped, I gathered each one up one at a time, and I just gave it a slight bend in the middle so that I could find the center. Then using my scissors, I cut through all of the layers, and I cut in about 1/4 inch. So it just created a small notch in the center of each of my bundles. So you can see here, I only went in about 1/4 inch, and it just left a little notch in the center of my bundle. I laid all of my bundles back on top of each other, starting with the longest length and worked my way up to the shortest length. Then I used a piece of jute cord, and I just made sure that the tails of the jute cord went through all of those notches that I cut in all 3 of my bundles. I cinched it together in the middle and I tied it as tight as I could. Now, if this is a little difficult for you, you can always use a pipe cleaner here or a zip tie too. And keep in mind, you don't have to use 3 different color ribbons. You could use all the same ribbon. And you probably noticed that my top ribbon was a little bit narrower than the bottom two, and that's okay too. You can switch it up however you like. And then the last step, once I had everything cinched together, was just to pull apart all of my loops and any pieces that were sticking out from the ends of the ribbon. If you could see them, I just went through and dovetailed them, or I just tucked them back inside so that you couldn't see them. You could leave the bow as is to add to your lantern, but I really wanted to use one of these little scarecrow picks. I thought they were so cute. So I pulled the little skewer out of the bottom of my scarecrow, and I used some hot glue to just hot glue him to the center of my bow. Then I grabbed a few pieces of fall florals that I had, and I tucked those in between some of the layers of the bow as well. Like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to be able to change out this topper for the different seasons and holidays. So to make this interchangeable, I took a piece of a craft stick and I hot glued it to the back side of my bow. Then I have these little tiny disc magnets. You can also get disc magnets at the Dollar Tree that are a bit bigger than these, and that would work fine too. It's just I already had these in my stash, so that's what I'm using. And if you don't have magnets at all, you could use Velcro in place of the magnets too, but since the lantern was metal, I figured the magnets would be the way to go. So I just laid 3 dots of hot glue on my craft stick, and I laid in 3 of those little magnets. By the way, I did get these magnets from Amazon, so I'll make sure that those are linked in the description box as well. Once my magnets were in place, then I could just take my lantern. I couldn't fit the whole thing in the screen here, but you can see on the top part there, or on the top of that arch section, I just had to lay that down on top and the magnets held it in place. For my Halloween lantern, I'm creating a smaller topper, so I didn't want to create quite as big of a bow as I did for the fall one. So instead, I'm taking some of this black fishnet ribbon that I had, and I cut it down to 8 inches. I cut 2 pieces, and then I'm also using this black and white stripe ribbon, and the same thing. I cut it down to 8 inches, and I made sure that I dovetailed the ends on both of those ribbons. Once they were cut down, I laid them in an X pattern on my work surface, and then I just cinched everything together and tied it in the center with the jute cord. You've seen me do this bow before. I always call it my scrappy bow. Usually I'm using a lot more ribbons than this, but like I said, I needed this topper to be a bit smaller because I'm using it on the smaller lantern. I also had this black ruffled lace in my stash, so I cut a length of that and formed it into a circle and glued the 2 ends together. Then I just squished it together in the middle a little bit and laid my bow on top of it just so that there was a little background piece behind my bow. I added a few little embellishments to the top of my bow. I had some black glittery branches. I also had these little skeleton hands. And then at the Dollar Tree, they always have these funny little Halloween flower arrangements that have eyeballs in the center of roses, and I just think they're so neat. So I'm always excited when I have the chance to put one of those on something. So of course I had to add that to the center of my bow. And just like with the first topper, again, I cut down a piece of a craft stick, hot glued it to the back, and then added 3 of those little magnets so that I could stick it right to the front of my lantern. Thank you again to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to check out the link in the description box below so that you can receive 1 full year of premium membership for only $1.49. All right, everyone, thanks so much for coming to hang out and craft with me again today. Let me know in the comments how your fall decorating is going. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.